Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. Just a few days ago marked exactly 36 years since the death of one of the greatest men to ever come out of Jamaica, in the great Peter Tosh. His passing was tragic as he was the victim of a robbery gone wrong, or as you will see later in this video, a callous assassination by a gunman who was a friend and beneficiary of Peter's large and generous heart. The man who took his life is a real personification of the term Maga Dog, as described in one of the Stepping Razor's classic tracks. If you listen to the lyrics of Peter's 1971 song, Maga Dog, it almost looks like he was predicting just what would befall him on September the 11th, 1987. The song is essentially about betrayal, a situation when you take pity on somebody only for that person to turn on you after you've given them help. A dog biting the hand that fed it. A painful scenario that most of us can relate with. The violent end of the Stepping Razor was as complex, controversial, and mysterious as the man himself. A sad culmination of domestic politics, a wolf in sheep's clothing, and the pure-hearted efforts of a man of the people just looking out for his brethren. Let's take a look at the tragic end of the great Peter Tosh. After the release of TOSH'S Mama Africa album in 1983, he retreated from the spotlight and was doing his best to live a quiet life with his lover and partner Marlene Brown at his home at number 5 Plymouth Avenue in the Barbican area of Kingston. Marlene was succeeding at what previous ladies in Peter's life failed to do. She had tamed the Stepping Razor and was doing her best to keep him out of trouble, which was no small feat. Tosh was taking a well-deserved break after more than 2 decades of non-stop touring, performing, and working, not to mention his fearless activism and his numerous face-offs with the establishment, which had seen him arrested and almost beaten to death on several occasions. He used those few years to rest and re-energize himself. One of the ways he did this was by connecting with the lesser privileged people and providing help to as many as he could afford. And one of such people that he showed love to during that period was a man called Dennis Loban, but more popularly known as Lepo, a familiar face from Trench Town. He had just been released from prison and often availed himself of Peter's legendary generosity. Michael Robinson, a close friend of Tosh, who was also there on the night of the attack, told the story of how during one of Lepo's numerous visits to the house, he asked Tosh if he could give him a bed. Marlene suggested that they give Lepo a bed that they had just bought, but Peter refused, saying that Lepo had just gotten out of jail and bought Lepo a brand new one. By 1987, Tosh felt it was time to end his sabbatical and make his comeback, and was recording music for his next album, No Nuclear War. He was looking forward to a return to the spotlight and to claim a spot as the king of reggae music. The years of inactivity gave way to a very hectic working schedule and a tighter ship at home, courtesy of Marlene. Peter was now always busy recording and couldn't find the time to entertain the usual crowd of people looking for help, or the hangers-on like Lepo. Marlene was fiercely protective of Peter, some say even manipulative, controlling, and determined to cut off his closest friends and even family. Peter's drummer and close friend Santa Davis, in recent interviews, that Marlene's level of control of Peter was actually evil and extreme. She was said to have been a practitioner of traditional medicine, and many believed that she had cast a spell over the Stepping Razor. A notion that became reinforced when Peter pointed his samurai sword at Bunny Wailer during an argument, leading to both men falling out until Peter's death. Inconceivable when you consider that they weren't just childhood friends and ex-bandmates, but that Peter's son Andrew was Bunny's nephew. It was Marlene's aggressive approach to isolating Peter that would set the stage for a clash with Lepo. It all got to a head one day when Lepo saw someone driving Peter's car while the Stepping Razor was supposed to be out of the country. He managed to flag the car down and saw that it was Marlene's younger brother taking the fancy car out for a spin with some young ladies, and he reportedly got into an argument with the young man before he drove off. Later that day, Lepo saw the same car upside down, damaged in an accident. Lepo reported the matter to Peter after he got back, an act which infuriated Marlene, and she called him an effing liar and other unprintable names, which provoked Lepo like never before. In Lepo's eyes, she'd already stopped Peter from helping him financially like he used to do, and now he was on the receiving end of a verbal beatdown. Lepo barked at Peter, accusing him of having no control over his woman and allowing her insult him. He stormed out of Peter's house and told anybody in Kingston who would listen that he was going to deal with Peter. So one Friday night, September the 11th, the Stepping Razor had just returned from a trip to the US and was entertaining some close friends like Santa Davis, Michael Robinson, his accountant and manager Wilton Doc Brown, along with Jeff Frey Dixon, a local radio DJ, and his wife. Peter's son Andrew was heading out to a dance that evening and noticed Lepo and some other men heading towards his father's house. He got a strange feeling but ignored it and kept on moving. Peter and his guests were watching TV when they heard a noise at the gate. Peter asked Michael Robinson to go check it out, but as soon as he opened the door, 3 armed men marched into the living room. The first one in loudly said, "This is the hold-up." He looked straight at Marlene and said, "This is happening because of you." To everyone's horror, Lepo was the leader of this group. They ordered everybody to lie down on their stomachs, and Lepo began to ask Peter for the whereabouts of his safe. He had gotten information that Peter had just returned from the US and had lots of American dollars at home. Peter responded that he had no money and promised to get some cash from the bank on Monday morning. This angered Lepo, who again began to rant at Peter for allowing Marlene too much authority and allowing her stop him from taking care of them. He told his men to subdue Peter, who was a black belt holder in karate, and they began to pistol whip him on the head before one of them opened fire on Marlene and thereafter everybody else on the floor, before ransacking the living room for what they could steal. Wilton Brown died on the spot, with Peter and Jeffrey eventually succumbing to their wounds at the University of West Indies Hospital. It's gone down as one of the darkest days in Jamaica's history and yet another horrible statistic of the island's gun violence problem. It was the end of the Stepping Razor, a man who had chosen music as his weapon to fight for the rights of the poor and oppressed. But ironically, it wasn't the police or Babylon, but actually the very people he was fighting for that took his wonderful life. A warrant was issued for the arrest of Lepo, and he would turn himself in a few days later. He was charged to court for murder and was found guilty in a record time of 11 minutes, the fastest conviction in Jamaican legal system history, though the sentence was later reduced to life imprisonment, and strangely, his 2 accomplices were never found. Lepo was still serving his sentence and has shamelessly continued to maintain his innocence, as he did in an interview he gave from prison in 2003. The murderers took Peter's life, but they couldn't kill his voice or message. His last album, No Nuclear War, won the Grammy for the Best Reggae Album in 1988, and 36 years after, his music is still as fresh and potent as ever, imparting joy and words of wisdom to new generations of fans that will continue to discover the brilliance, the magic, and the greatness of the amazing Peter Tosh. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, Jah bless.